How will you or did you manifest a blissful, orgasmic, and ecstatic birth? Hi, I'm Deborah Pascali Bonaro, founder and director of Orgasmic Birth and host of the Orgasmic Birth podcast. My guest today will share her personal experience with her blissful orgasmic birth and ways to deprogram your mind from limiting beliefs around birth. So I'm honored today to welcome Gina Ojeda. She is a mother, a spouse, a homekeeper, a crafter, and a lover of nature. She's a certified birth doula with Small Wonders Childbirth, a certified lactation consultant through the Healthy Children Project, and a postpartum care provider through Innate Traditions. She has a passion for supporting women in their journey of creating and birthing life. She's also a licensed massage therapist specializing in pregnancy and postpartum massage, and a certified yoga teacher specializing in prenatal yoga and yoga for youth. She has a mission to educate, inspire, and empower women in the childbearing years. Welcome, Gina. I'm so looking forward to hearing your personal journey with manifesting a blissful, orgasmic, and ecstatic birth.
Thank you so much for having me on, Deborah. It's an honor to be here, and I'm so excited to share my story with everybody.
Well, I'm excited. So help us set the stage, how you began thinking about birth and then what your birth was like.
Yeah, so I'm going to just, kind of backtrack to my childhood. I had a really amazing upbringing, but then there was some alcoholism, some physical abuse, and some trauma that I experienced. And that led me to seek, spirituality and to seek healing for myself. And so at 20 years old, I began yoga. And that was, 14 years ago. And then I was inspired to become a massage therapist. And I, learned about the chakras and the energy body and the anatomy. And I was just so fascinated with the body and with our physiology, and also with yoga and spirituality. And so, I was able to really heal a lot of my traumas, and I knew that I didn't want to repeat the cycle. I wanted to end those patterns that were passed down generation to generation, the alcoholism, the abuse. I know that my parents did the best with what they knew, and I knew I wanted to do different. And so I chose this path, and that kind of brought me onto that path. And then I started to really bring myself into this space of psychedelic, use of also healing my traumas, because I was reading, that you can, reprogram your mind, and you can really heal some of those traumas with psychedelics, with, the mushrooms and other plant medicine. And so then I went on that journey, and I did a lot of inner work before I chose to bring children into the world. And, we intentionally decided to, conceive my daughter, who is now 7 years old. And I was doing yoga at the time. I had my massage practice. I ran a yoga studio. I did yoga every single day in my pregnancy, but I didn't really know much about birth. I didn't do childbirth education. I didn't know about the postpartum period. I just knew what I knew. And we went to a hospital. I wasn't happy at the hospital here in our small town. So then I drove 2 hours in this magical place called Taos, New Mexico. It's very sacred land. And I decided to have, my daughter there in a hospital. And the doctor was amazing. The midwives were amazing. But they did tell me I needed to be induced because my daughter was diagnosed with the IUGR, the intrauterine growth restriction. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'm going in at 37 and a half weeks. But like I told myself, I was like, I am going to have a natural birth. Like, I really desire this. And even though I'm getting induced, I am going to do everything in my power to not, have the Pitocin. And so luckily, I was able to go into labor with the Cervitec that they used, they inserted it into my cervix. And I went into labor. I was, on my ball. I had calm music. I had my oils diffusing. I had support from my partner and my mother-in-law. And it actually was a very beautiful experience. But then it was time for me to push. I felt like I had to go poop, it's like that pressure in your
Yes.
sacrum. And I was like, okay. And they were like, it's time for you to push. And I wanted to be in a squat. I wanted to bear down, and they wouldn't let me. They pushed me back onto the bed and made me lay back. And that was very traumatizing for me now when I really think back. Like, and then that's when I experienced pain, because I innately, my body knew to bear down, but I was like pushing, against gravity. And it was so painful, it was so traumatic. I was screaming. I didn't know how to use my voice and how to, like, really make those lower tones to, draw and breathe the baby down. I was just like screaming at the top of my lungs. And I pushed for like 45 minutes. And then, she was born, but it was very, to me, I was like, oh, that was traumatic, but I didn't know any difference. So I was like, oh, that was a beautiful birth. And then I just began my journey as a mother, and I'm a massage therapist, and I started massaging pregnant women, and all of them were like, I just want you to be at my birth. And I was like, well, maybe I'll attend your birth. And then I had a really dear friend ask me to be present at her birth, and I was so honored. And I was like, well, if I'm going to attend births, I better get some training. So then I, trained to become a doula, and that was a beautiful experience to learn about. I didn't know about this each stage of labor, and just how much, preparation goes into it, and education goes into it. And so I began that journey. I've been to countless births where I have experienced everything from an unassisted home birth to C-section to stillbirth. So some really touching experiences, some really sad and traumatic experiences. And I really got so passionate about this realm in the birth world. And then I met an amazing mentor, Rochelle Saliga, who is a founder of Innate Postpartum Care. And I did her training in Taos, and I was with her in her home. And that just completely blew my mind and changed the whole trajectory of my life about, really supporting women in the postpartum time and bringing in the traditional practices of supporting a woman and nurturing a woman after she has a baby. So, my studies just continue to grow. And then in my pregnancy for my son, he's now 10 months, I also started to work with a little bit of tantra yoga and, some sexual practices. And me and my partner have been together for 14 years, and we started to really expand our sexual relationship. Like took it to another level. And, I started to experience these multiple orgasms I had never experienced before. And I just started to really, connect with my sexual energy. And then I began to study quantum physics and neuroplasticity and rewiring the brain. And I knew that I wanted to have a home birth because of all my experiences. And there's no midwives in our town, in our area. So I traveled to Taos once again to, work with these midwives. They're super radical herbalists, like amazing midwives. They really honor and respect everything that I wanted to do. Like I was the one that, was fully in charge and control, and they were just there to support me. And through this process, I was, doing hypnosis, and I was visualizing myself having this like blissful birth, and I was rewiring my brain, and I was working with my sexual energy. And there was a point in my pregnancy where I was like, I just want to have my baby at my house, because I had to rent an Airbnb in Taos. It was all this work. And I was like, the point of having a home birth is to be at home and to be able to just go into labor at home and just feel safe and secure, and not have to travel, not have to worry about all the logistics of where my daughter was going to go and my dogs. And it just, I was like, you know what? I'm going to manifest a home birth like here at my house. And I didn't know how that was going to happen. I was almost just being kind of like silly in my mind, but deep down, I knew. I was like, I'm going to have my baby at home. And I didn't tell anybody because it freaks people out here in our small town. My husband, his parents, like if I tell them that, they'd be like, no, what are you thinking? But I knew deep down something was going to happen. And, I was 37 weeks. I had no idea I was going to have a baby that day. I went to my friend's wedding shower. I was surrounded by sisterhood. Everybody was so loving to me, just like rubbing my belly, just giving me so much love and compassion. And I was just filled with oxytocin that morning. And, I got ready that day. I was feeling sexy and confident, and I came home, and my husband, we like, I was feeling good. And so we made this passionate love, and it was like multiple orgasmic, just so incredible. And that brought on my labor.
Yes.
And then, and I didn't even really realize it. I was just in this, I felt like it was a trip. Like I was in this other dimension. And I I had to take my daughter to swimming lessons. So it's just 5 minutes away. I took her to swimming lessons, and that pool is so serene. I teach aqua yoga there. I know everybody there. The water, I was just, she was in swimming lessons, and I was in full active labor, just like, wow. And I felt like I was, yeah, like it was full oxytocin, so much, energy, like I was tripping on psychedelics. Like it was beautiful. And then my water, broke at the pool, and I was like, oh, wow. And I was like, okay, we better go home, babe. And I got in the bath with my daughter, and I was just, again, in this world of just bliss and joy. And, my husband was calling the midwives. And in my mind, I was like, there's no way I'm getting in a car and driving to Taos right now. And, he was like trying to pack up everything. Like, we're going now. I was just like in my zone. And I came into my bedroom. I was on like naked on all fours, just doing yoga, breathing. And it felt so primal and so, just felt so good to just like be free. Nobody was, when I was at the hospital, all the nurses are coming in and checking you, and you're being monitored. Like I had so much freedom in my body. And it was, it was dark. It was, well, 6 o'clock, but it was dark in my room. And then again, I had that sensation like I had to go poop it, but it was that pressure in my rectum and my sacral area. And I went to the bathroom. I squatted down, and literally my baby he just slid right out of me so gracefully. And I was just in awe. Like there was no pain, there was no suffering. It was just so magical. It was just this, I've never experienced anything like it. Like it is more incredible than any, psychedelic plant medicine that I've ever experienced. It, because you release DMT when you give birth. And I I was just so amazed. I was sitting on the bathroom floor just holding my baby, like, wow, I just gave birth to my baby in my bathroom at home with no midwives, no doctors. My partner, he did catch the baby, which was so beautiful. And my daughter was there to help bring towels, and she was like, what is going on? But it was just so easeful. Um and I'm so grateful. But I know that, the work that I did really, I manifested that, I created that. And it's so possible for women to create that for themselves. And, it was a 3-hour labor experience, and it was so powerful, so empowering. And I really am just so honored to be able to share it with everybody. And, this is my first time sharing this story in these details, because I felt guilty and I felt ashamed that I had such a beautiful experience, and so many women that, I've been a part of their births. And I've heard all of these stories. I felt this guilt and shame. And then I was like, this is something is going on here. I had this orgasmic birth that other women must be having these experiences. And that's how I found you, Deborah. And then I watched the documentary, and I was like, wow, it's time for me to share this story, because I can empower women. I don't have to be ashamed. I don't have to feel guilty for having this experience.
Oh, thank you so much, Gina, for sharing so much of your journey to birth. And I couldn't agree with you more. We need to talk about it, right? We need to share, as you did, a beautiful story of healing, and really honoring that for many of us, we have backgrounds that can include trauma and other things. And birth is this opportunity to reprogram and heal and expand, right? Like, Wow, the pleasure. I could just feel the oxytocin across the screen as we're talking in my own body rising from your orgasmic birth. So I know that as people are listening, right, they're also like, wow, amazing. And you said a few things that I'm sure they'd like clarity on. Like you said, you practiced Tantra and did other things that helped to kind of reprogram. Can you talk a little bit more? What is that like reprogramming? How can people do that, whether they have healing to do in the past or even in their own perceptions about what birth is?
Yeah, absolutely. So I first, but one of my first teachers was Louise Hay, and practicing affirmations, and that was, a big part of my journey. And then my biggest teacher now is Joe Dispenza, and he talks a lot about, rewiring your brain, and through meditation and through these techniques and bringing your brain and heart into coherence. And so I did a lot of that work as well. And this is a practice that I do every day. And I also practice hypnosis, which is, bringing your body, you into a state of hypnosis. And there's hypnobirthing, and I really dove into that. I read the book, hypnobirthing, and then, I've been in yoga for a yoga practitioner for so long. And so then the Tantra yoga is another amazing practice where you can really work with your sexual organs, and you can draw the energy up all the way up through your chakra centers. And you can really just every day work on cultivating that sexual energy. And, it really expands into your sexual life, your creative life, what you're manifesting in your, whether it's your business, your, wealth and abundance. It really is a powerful energy to work with. And then also doing some yoni work where, you really connect with your womb and your creative center and manifest from that place, of your center. And Tammy Lynn Kent is another one of my teachers. I read of all her books. And so, yeah, really, I just became obsessed with all things birth, and just being able to identify your limiting beliefs and, you know, any of the programs that, have been passed down from your lineage. And first I identified those, and then I did the work on changing the narrative and rewiring my brain through meditation, because it takes work to sit still and to be present, and to, like, they have studies and research showing, that, people who meditate actually, it shortens their lifespan by 12 years. People who meditate have a 55% less chance of becoming ill, 85% less chance of having heart disease, and I think it's a 50% chance of having cancer, because you can literally turn off your genes, the genes that may be cancerous or have those, programs in them through meditation and doing these brain and heart coherence techniques. So I think those things combined really can be powerful tools to really live the life of your dreams, not just in birth, but just overall in your life. But yeah, I'm so excited to be able to share this with people, because it's all kind of coming together for me. And now I feel like I have, you know, I'm creating a program where I can now teach women and families how to do this.
Yeah, fantastic. I love all that. And I couldn't agree with you more that those affirmations, all the people you mentioned, right? I also follow and love. And there's so much work we all have to do in kind of reframing, rehealing many things in life, but also the messages that we've been told about birth in society. And I love how when you were planning for your second birth, you really talked about expanding into your sexuality as well and making more of that connection, which always for me surprises me that we're birthing, through our wombs, through our cervix, our vaginas, our yonis, our labia, the clitoris, and we're not associating the birth with having a connection to sexual energy. How did that shift for you? How did you come to bringing that into your kind of preparation and your birth?
Yeah. And I think when in my pregnancy, I don't even think I fully understood what you're talking about, Deborah. Like, I didn't really fully, it didn't click for me until I watched your documentary and until came into your world. But I, I knew that it was really important for me to heal any, sexual trauma that I had experienced in the past with these, the Tantra yoga and the Kundalini yoga. And I really wanted to just have a, a better relationship with my partner, with my husband. And it didn't even click for me when I was pregnant, which is really interesting. But I've always been a very sexual, sensual person. And I feel like it's been dimmed, like it's like that's shameful. I was raised Catholic. And so I think, I finally just allowed myself to fully embody and embrace my sexuality when I was pregnant. And I think that really made a difference, in the birth. But now I understand it on such a deeper level that, yeah, like that we conceive our babies through the sexual energy. And why are we just shutting ourselves off from even talking about our vagina and our clitoris and all of our amazing, beautiful, sacred areas, and it's just completely disconnect from our sexual energy when we give birth. It's so bizarre to me, and it really was enlightening to hear all of the information in the documentary, because I learned a lot there. So yeah, so I'm just being honest, I didn't even really put that together until now recently.
Yeah. Well, it's so wonderful to hear all the lessons you have incorporated in your own birthing experience. And now you're birthing that forward and supporting many other people. So I know many people listening may be considering being pregnant or are pregnant, are a partner supporting someone who's going to be giving birth. What would be, if you had to say one thing that you would really recommend for them or offer to them?
Oh, there's so many amazing things, but I think the most important thing is the mindset and our brain is so powerful, our mind is so powerful, and we literally are the creators of our reality. And I think that rewiring, reprogramming of the brain is so essential, because yeah, we are taught that birth is painful and that there's so much to fear, in all of the television shows, all of the horror stories you hear. It's just embedded in the collective consciousness. And so I think that is like the most essential. And then all of the other things, can come after and are super beneficial. But I think that's the like foundation, is just pruning away those old programs, those limiting beliefs that are really not even ours, and forming your new, neurons, and and the neuroplasticity happens in your brain, and you can and listen to these stories that it's like, no, it's possible to have an orgasmic, blissful, and ecstatic birth.
Thank you so much. Oh, great wisdom. And I have to ask, how can people find you? Where can we follow you?
Yes, so I have a website, and it's called GaiaAlchemy.com. And so it's GAIA dash alchemy, ALCHEMY.com. And that has all of my contact information, all of the work that I do, all of the services I offer. And then you can find me on Instagram at just Gina, GINA Ojeda, OJEDA. And then Facebook as well is just Gina Ojeda. And those are, just my platforms for now. But yes, I would love to connect with everyone, because I am birthing now this program called the Blissful Mamahood Collective, where I will be supporting mothers and teaching them childbirth education and how to cultivate and manifest a orgasmic birth. And also a blissful and orgasmic postpartum time, because we didn't even get into that, but I also had a really beautiful postpartum experience. And, just offering yoga and meditation and you really, rewiring and reprogramming our brain. I'm going to be teaching this in my program, and just a space where we can connect in sisterhood and support one another and be in ceremony together, and pray, and and manifest, and learn and educate yourself about this. The really childbirth and postpartum is another important piece. So yeah, I'm really excited to be birthing that just as we speak. It's literally coming through me, and I'm creating it and inviting women into it now.
Thank you so much, Gina. I know everyone has probably got their oxytocin flowing too, looking forward to learning more. And if any of you listening have had a challenging, joyful, blissful, sometimes difficult, but journey with birth and have turned that into pleasure and orgasmic birth, we'd love to have you share your story too. So thank you so much, Gina. And for everyone else, we'll see you next time. You'll enjoy us today and in the future on the next episode of the Orgasmic Birth Podcast.
Thank you so much, Deborah.